I'm Brenda Coleman, I'm 30, and the night my family finally saw who I really was. They were standing in my showroom, insulting me to my face. I was surrounded by champagne glasses and a $500,000 car under a silk cover when my older brother, let's call him the Crown Prince, looked me up and down and said, loud enough for strangers to hear. Here to clean the floors, Brenda? All you can do here is swallow your envy. His wife laughed. My parents smiled. They honestly thought I was some nobody in a borrowed dress. 30 seconds later my manager rushed over, bowed his head slightly, and said, Sorry, Ms. Coleman, your VIP room is ready. The team is waiting on your final approval for the launch. The Crown Prince's face collapsed in real time. He had no idea the disappointment of the family had become the owner of the hottest luxury dealership in Philadelphia. And I hadn't even started with the karma yet. Before I tell you how my brother's reputation crashed, how my parents got iced out of their little fancy circles, and how I built an empire out of grease monkey nonsense, do me a favor. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, if they ever treated your dream like trash and then tried to claim you when you made it, hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and drop your story in the comments. This one's for every black sheep who refused to stay small. Okay. So it all started long before that launch night. I grew up in a part of Philadelphia where your last name meant more than your first. I was Brenda Coleman, second child, only daughter, and walking disappointment from the moment I strayed off script. My parents, Carol and Walter, were old school, old money, old ego. They ran in charity circles and country club committees, always talking about legacy with that capital L. To them, legacy meant one thing: my older brother, Gregory. Gregory was their crown prince long before I started calling him that in my head. By 14 he was parroting CNBC terms he didn't understand and bragging to guests about diversifying his portfolio with monopoly money. You'd think he'd discovered gravity the way my parents beamed at him across the dinner table. Me? I was the kid sitting at the other end with grease on my fingers from flipping through a car magazine under the table. I remember one specific evening so clearly it still makes my stomach tighten. I was 10. It was 2005. Mom had set the dining room like we were hosting royalty, crystal glasses, ironed napkins, the whole performance. I'd spent the afternoon sketching the lines of a '67 Mustang Fastback in my notebook, obsessing over the way the roofline flowed into the trunk. At dinner, Gregory launched into some story about how his economics teacher said he had a real nose for numbers. Dad clinked his fork on his glass. Hear that, Bren? Your brother's going places. Finance, consulting, maybe even his own firm one day. My heart pounded. It was stupid, but I thought, maybe tonight I show them. So I pulled the folded sketch out from my lap. Look, I said, a little too eager. I drew this. I think if you shortened the wheelbase and dropped the hood a bit, you could. Mom barely glanced at the paper before she sighed. Brenda, cars? Really? That's for boys and mechanics. Not for Colemans. Dad nodded, cutting his steak. You can doodle all you want, but serious people work with their minds, not their hands. Then Gregory snorted. She just wants to be a grease monkey. Maybe you can change the oil on my Porsche someday, Bren. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, a tiny, brittle sound, and stuffed the drawing back under my thigh so they wouldn't see my hands shaking. Inside, something burned. I didn't have words for it back then, but it was the moment I realized. Oh. They've already decided who I am. And it's not someone worth listening to. By 13, I had a routine. I tell Mom I was studying at the library, sling my backpack over my shoulder, and walk 3 blocks past the branch. Straight to Thompson's Auto. It wasn't glamorous. It was a mid-tier dealership with faded flags, flickering fluorescent lights, and a coffee machine that sounded like it was dying. But to me, it was a cathedral. The first time I walked in, Mr. Thompson, a grizzled man in his 50s with a mustache that could have had its own zip code, looked up from his desk. Can I help you, kid? He asked, eyeing my school uniform. Like cars, I blurted. Can I just watch? He chuckled, shook his head, and sent me to the waiting area. I sat there for 3 hours, quietly memorizing everything. How the sales rep leaned in when the customer smiled. How they pivoted when someone flinched at a price. The way a guy lit up when he heard the engine turn over. The next day, I came back. The day after that, too. Eventually, Mr. Thompson stopped asking why I was there. One Tuesday, he walked over, tossed me a rag, and pointed at a dusty desk. "If you're gonna haunt the place, at least make yourself useful." That's how it started. I cleaned desks, swept floors, straightened brochures I couldn't afford. It was supposed to be busy work, but I treated it like training. I'd listen to every sales pitch while I wiped down the glass. I take mental notes. He closed when he shut up and let them imagine the car. She lost them when she started pushing instead of listening. One evening, a couple came in right before closing. Married, mid-40s, their SUV on its last breath. They were overwhelmed by the options, flipping through brochures with glazed eyes. I was stacking flyers nearby when the woman sighed. "I just want something that won't die on me in a year. Something safe. And my husband wants it to look not hideous." Without thinking, I said, "The Accord has better reliability than the other one you were looking at. And the trunk's bigger. You mentioned you do craft shows?" They turned to me like I'd just dropped from the ceiling. Mr. Thompson watched from his office, eyebrows raised. The couple asked a few more questions. I answered every one. I'd been reading spec sheets in secret for months. When they finally shook hands on the Accord, they thanked me more than the salesperson. After they left, Mr. Thompson called me over. "Where'd you learn all that?" he asked. I shrugged, suddenly shy. "I read the brochures. And I just listen." He stared at me for a long second, then slid a dog-eared pricing guide across the desk. "Take this home. Study it. You might be good for more than wiping counters." I swear, I held that book like it was made of gold all the way home. If Thompson's Auto was my secret school, our dining room remained my personal battlefield. By 15, the contrast between my two lives felt like whiplash. At the dealership, I was the weird but useful kid who knew the difference between trim levels and could predict which car a customer would like after 30 seconds of small talk. At home, I was still Brenda who doesn't understand real success. One night, Mom hosted a little dinner for some of Dad's business friends. The kind where everyone pretends they aren't comparing watches. I served appetizers like a good daughter, dropping mini quiches onto plates while they asked Gregory about his internship at some investment firm. "He's already meeting managing directors," Mom said, proud as a peacock. Dad chimed in, "He'll have his own fund before he's 30, mark my words." Someone finally turned to me. "And what about you, Brenda? Still thinking about cars?" The way he said cars made it sound like a contagious disease. I opened my mouth, nervous but excited. I wanted to tell them I'd helped close a sale last week. That Mr. Thompson said I had a real knack for reading customers. Before I could speak, Gregory answered for me. "She hangs around some low-end dealership by the highway," he said. "I told her if she's not careful, she's gonna end up changing tires for tips." The table laughed. Mom didn't correct him. She just gave me that tight smile and said, "Brenda's still finding her way." Dad added, "She'll grow out of this phase. She's smart like Gregory. Right, Bren? You'll come to your senses." I stared at my plate, my face burning so hot I thought I'd actually scorch the china. Inside, my brain was screaming. "I already found my way. You're just too blinded by his tie to see it." But out loud, all I said was, "Yeah. Maybe." And Gregory smirked over his wine glass like he'd won something. Because here's the thing, sometimes you try to prove them wrong by playing their game first. When I got into Upend for business, my family treated it like Gregory had gotten in, not me. Mom cried, hugging me so tight I couldn't breathe. "See?" she said. "We always knew you had it in you, if you just focused." Dad told anyone who would listen that both his kids were on the finance track now. Gregory just texted me. "Congrats on finally acting like a Coleman." And for the first semester, I tried. I really, really tried. I went to the classes. I did the group projects. I dutifully learned how to build cash flow models and analyze balance sheets. On paper, it looked great. In reality? Every lecture felt like slowly suffocating under someone else's life. There's this one memory that sums it up. I was sitting in a giant lecture hall, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, listening to a guest speaker drone on about mergers and acquisitions. Everyone around me was typing furiously, sucking in every word like oxygen. I looked down at my notebook and realized I'd filled the margins with sketches of a concept car, sleek lines, aggressive front fascia, the whole thing. I stared at it and had this crystal clear thought. If you die in the seat 20 years from now, is this the life you'll be proud of? The answer came up fast and sharp, no. That night, I ended up at a dingy little bar with one of the only people who actually knew the real me at Penn, my friend Megan. She wasn't in business. She was in industrial design and she got it. She'd seen my car sketches and instead of laughing, she'd said, "You know this is actually good, right?" We were hunched over sticky wood, nursing cheap beers. I told her everything, the dealership, my family, the way my chest tightened in every finance class. She listened, then said exactly what I knew some of you are probably thinking. "Brenda, they are completely enabling your brother and suffocating you. You're not crazy. You're just in the wrong life." I laughed, but it came out choked. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked. "Drop out? Live in a garage? My parents will cut me off." Megan shrugged, calm in that annoyingly wise way she had. "So they cut you off. You'll still be you. You'll still have your talent. You could go where cars live and actually use it. Right now you're dying for a script someone else wrote." I remember staring at the condensation ring under my glass, my mind a tornado. Could I really? Was I brave enough to blow up everything? Then she said the line that lodged in my chest forever. "You will never be enough for people who only love you and you're pretending to be someone else." My throat closed. I went home that night, laid in my too expensive dorm bed, and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. The next afternoon, I walked into the registrar's office and asked for the dropout forms. If you're wondering how my parents took it, imagine dropping a lit match into a gas tank. I waited until Sunday dinner, when everyone was home. Dad at the head of the table. Mom to his right. Gregory across from me with his phone face up like he was expecting the president to call. I slid my fork down and cleared my throat. I withdrew from a pen. Silence. Mom blinked. Dad froze. Gregory's eyebrows shot up. Mom was the first to speak. "What? What do you mean, you withdrew?" she asked, her voice thin. I swallowed. "I dropped out. I'm not going back next semester. I want to work in the automotive industry. For real this time." Dad's face went from pale to dark red in half a second. "Absolutely not," he snapped. "You are not throwing away a Penn education to chase some hobby." "It's not a hobby," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's a career. A real one. People make fortunes in automotive design and sales. I've already." Gregory cut in with a bark of laughter. "Oh please. What are you going to do, Bren? Sell used cars off Route 1? You can't be serious." Something in me cracked. "For your information," I said, leaning forward, "Mr. Thompson already told me he'd bring me on full-time if I wanted. And that's just the start." Dad slammed his palm down on the table, making the cutlery jump. "You are not going to be some salesman, Brenda. Colemans do not work with their hands. Colemans lead. They manage money. We did not sacrifice for 18 years so you could become blue collar." Mom clasped her hands. "Honey, be reasonable. Think about your future. Think about your reputation." "My reputation?" I snapped. "You mean yours." Gregory smirked. "You're acting like a child. I'm meeting with a partner at my firm next week about a promotion. Meanwhile you're throwing a tantrum because business school is hard." My blood boiled so hot my vision blurred. "This isn't about school being hard," I said. "It's about wanting a life that doesn't make me hate waking up every morning." Mom sighed dramatically. "You're being dramatic, Brenda. Everyone hates school sometimes. You just want the easy way out." Megan's words flashed in my head, "They are completely enabling him." I took a breath. "There is nothing easy about starting at the bottom in a dealership," I said quietly. "But I'd rather struggle doing something I love than be dead inside in a fancy office for the rest of my life." Dad stood up, chair scraping. "If you walk away from Penn, you walk away from our support," he said. "Financially. Completely. You want to play grown-up? Fine. Live like one." Mom gasped. "Walter." He held up a hand. "No. I mean it. She wants to be independent? Let her." Gregory grinned. Good luck, Bren. Seriously. Send me a pic when you're buffing someone's hubcaps. Mom looked at me, eyes shiny but hard. Think carefully, Brenda. Don't throw your life away to prove a point. My hands were shaking under the table, but my voice stayed weirdly calm. I already did think about it, I said. For a long time. This isn't a tantrum. It's a choice. I pushed back my chair. And I'm still choosing it. I went upstairs, packed a duffel with clothes, my laptop, and one framed sketch of a car I designed when I was 14, the one Mom had thrown in a drawer. Then I walked out. I didn't cry until I got to the bus stop. The next year of my life was a blur of cheap noodles, side hustles, and doors being slammed in my face. I rented a shoebox apartment in South Philly that smelled vaguely like old pizza and wet socks. The kind of place where you could touch both walls of the kitchen if you stretched your arms wide enough. By day, I sent out resumes and walked into dealerships, asking for a chance. By night, I worked part-time at a coffee shop, went home exhausted, and read everything I could about sales psychology and automotive trends. Most dealerships saw dropped out of UPenn and either wrote me off as reckless or assumed I was just looking for something temporary. It was humbling, to put it gently. One particularly bad day, I got turned down by 3 different places in a row. The last guy, a slick manager with a too-tight tie, patted my resume and said, "Look, sweetie, this isn't really a space for, girls from nice families slumming it. You'll get bored. Go back to school." I smiled tightly, thanked him, and walked out. As soon as I hit the sidewalk, I wanted to scream. Was I crazy? Had I actually ruined my life? That night I called Megan, lying on my second-hand mattress with paint peeling over my head. "I don't know if I can do this," I whispered. "Nobody wants to take a chance on me, Meg. Maybe my parents were right." On the other end, she snorted. "Your parents don't get to be right about a world they've never even walked through," she said. "You've been at this how long? A few months? You grew up watching your brother get everything handed to him and now you think if the world doesn't do the same for you, you're failing? No. Keep going." I wiped my eyes. "What if I'm just ordinary?" I asked. There was a pause. "Brenda, listen to me," she said. "I've seen your work. I've seen you talk about cars like they're alive. Ordinary people don't have that. You are allowed to be at the beginning of your story. That doesn't mean it's a bad story." The next morning, I dragged myself out of bed, wrote "You're allowed to be at the beginning" on a sticky note, and slapped it on my mirror. Then fate, or luck, or whatever you want to call it, finally blinked in my direction. I spent my last saved $60 on a ticket to an automotive trade show at the convention center. "Consider it an investment," Megan had said. I walked in wearing my one decent blazer and carrying a folder with my best sketches and a printed list of ideas I'd come up with to improve customer experience in luxury dealerships. Everyone there looked like money. I felt like an intruder. But I forced myself to walk booth to booth, asking questions, listening, pitching myself when I could. That's where I met Vincent Price. And no, not the horror actor. This Vincent was a different kind of terrifying, a legend in the luxury car business, with silver hair, a tailored suit, and a gaze that felt like it could strip you down to your last excuse. He was standing near a concept vehicle, speaking with a drone of journalists, when I recognized his name on his badge. My brain screamed "don't," my feet walked anyway. I waited until the crowd thinned, then stepped forward. "Mr. Price?" He glanced at me, clearly expecting another fluff question. I swallowed. "I know you're busy, so I'll be quick," I said. "I'm Brenda. I grew up in Philly, I dropped out of business school to work in cars, and I have about 40 ideas for how to fix everything customers complain about in high-end dealerships." His eyebrow ticked up. "Oh?" he said. 40? "At least," I replied. Half of them came from watching salespeople bore rich clients to death while their wives sat silently in chairs. A corner of his mouth quirked. "You have my attention for the next 60 seconds, he said. "Use them wisely." My heart pounded. I launched into it, concierge-style delivery, more transparent pricing explanations, better follow-up after purchase, staff trained to treat every person in the room like the buyer, not just the guy in the suit. Vincent listened, actually listened, hands clasped behind his back, head tilted. When I finished, breathless, He nodded slowly. You worked in a dealership before? He asked. I basically lived in one as a teen, I said. Started with sweeping floors, ended with helping close deals. Not officially, but yeah. Formal education? He asked. 2 years at UPenn, then I left, I said. With my family's blessing, if by blessing you mean they disowned me. He chuckled. Why did you really leave? He asked. I met his eyes. Because every day I spent in those lecture halls felt like I was burying the part of me that actually cared about anything, I said quietly. And I knew I could make more of a difference in a dealership than in some beige office building. He studied me for a long second. Then he reached into his jacket and handed me a card. My assistant's email is on there, he said. Be at this address Monday at 8 a.m. Don't be late. Wear something you can move in. You're going to shadow my floor managers. My mouth dropped. Is this a job? It's a test, he said. If you fail, at least you'll know it's not for you. If you pass, we'll see. Vincent's dealership was nothing like Thompson's Auto. Marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Ferraris and Bentleys lined up like jewelry on velvet. The first morning, I stood outside, palms sweating, staring at my reflection in the glass. You don't belong here, the old voices hissed in my head. This is Gregory's world. Not yours. Then I remembered my parents' faces the day I dropped out and thought, screw that. I walked in. The first few months were brutal. The pace was relentless. The clients were demanding. The expectations were sky high. I started as a junior assistant, printing contracts, arranging test drives, fetching espresso for people who owned multiple houses. But even from the margins, I watched everything. How Vincent greeted returning customers like old friends and remembered their kids' names. How the best salespeople barely talked at all during test drives, letting the engine do the selling. How a tiny, thoughtful gesture, like having a client's favorite song playing when they picked up their car, turned a transaction into a story they couldn't wait to brag about. Vincent would call me into his office sometimes, drop a stack of files on his desk, and say, "Tell me which deal is about to fall apart and why." I'd read the notes, the emails, the tiny details. This one, I'd say, pointing. He's hesitating because his wife isn't sold yet. You should invite her in alone and walk her through everything. Half the time, I was right. I lived on adrenaline and protein bars those first years. I'd leave dead tired, shoes in my hand, walking home on sore feet. But I loved it. The rhythm. The challenge. The way my brain lit up when a client's eyes did. Vincent noticed. One evening, after we closed, he called me into his office. He leaned back in his leather chair, steepling his fingers. "Do you know what you're really selling here, Brenda?" he asked. "Cars," I said, then corrected myself. "Status. Confidence. Maybe escape." He nodded. "We sell stories," he said. "Nobody needs a $200,000 car. They want the story it tells about them. The story they tell themselves when they grip the wheel. If you can understand that story, you can sell anything." He poured 2 glasses of water and slid one across. "You're good," he said. "Not just at the technical details. At the human part. You listen. You read between the lines. Don't waste that." It was the closest thing to parental encouragement I'd felt in years. I went home that night and cried into my pillow, which sounds dramatic, but when you've spent your whole life being told your dream is stupid, hearing someone say, "Don't waste it," hits like a freight train. Over the next few years, I climbed. Assistant became associate. Associate became senior. Senior became floor lead. I picked up a few wealthy repeat clients who'd only work with me. I started bringing ideas to Vincent, not just for sales tactics, but for how the entire dealership could feel different. What if we had a membership program? I asked one day. Events. Track days. Community. Make the dealership a club, not just a store. He listened. Implemented some. Shot others down. Pushed me to refine all of them. By 28, he called me into his office again. "I'm opening a new location," he said. "Here. In Philly. Not just a dealership. I want something different. A flagship. And I want you to run it." I stared at him. "Me?" I asked. "As in manager?" He shook his head. "As in partner," he said. "We'll own it together. You handle operations, team, customer experience. I'll handle capital and manufacturer relationships. You've earned this." The room went blurry around the edges. All I could think was, if my family could see me now. Then a second thought, much sharper, they don't deserve to. I took a breath. "I'm in," I said. Setting up the new dealership was like being handed a blank canvas the size of a city block. We found a space in a prime part of Philadelphia, glass walls, rooftop potential, space for showrooms and lounges. It was a mess at first, all drywall dust and exposed beams, but I could see it. I built my team carefully. Joyce Carter, 38, had been a senior designer at a manufacturer but was tired of corporate politics. I saw her portfolio, clean lines, bold ideas, and begged her to join as head of design and customization. "I don't want to just sell cars," I told her. "I want to build experiences. You'll get to experiment here." She thought about it for a week, then walked into the construction site in steel toe boots and said, "Where's my office?" Freddie Lang, 32, was an ex-startup guy with the energy of a golden retriever and a mind for sales. He could charm a rock, but more importantly, he believed in ethical selling. "We are never, ever going to pressure someone into a purchase," I told him in our interview. "We match the right person to the right car or we walk away." He grinned. "So we're selling long-term trust instead of short-term commissions," he said. "Hell yes." Connie Hart, 29, was a marketing wizard I'd found through her work on a tiny niche brand that somehow went viral. "We're not just posting polished pics," I told her. "We're telling the stories behind the sales. The families. The milestones. The weird little celebrations." She pushed her glasses up and said, "So. Emotional storytelling with horsepower. I can do that." We worked ridiculous hours. I walked through the building with architects, arguing over sight lines. I tested chairs for the lounge. I chose the scent diffused in the air, clean leather, a hint of cedar. I helped design the coffee bar menu. Joyce sketched concept designs for our own exclusive edition car, a limited model we'd customize in partnership with a manufacturer. We spent nights hunched over blueprints, arguing about curves and colors like they were matters of life and death. "The line here needs to feel like it's moving even when the car is still," she'd say, dragging her pencil across the page. Freddie recruited and trained the sales team to treat every person with respect, not just whoever looked rich. Connie crafted a campaign that leaned into my story, a woman who'd been told her dream was beneath her now creating a space where that dream came true. I didn't hide my past. I didn't shout my last name either. We just built. When the dealership finally opened, people came. Influencers. Business owners. Young couples buying their first luxury car. Older clients trading up. Word spread that if you wanted to feel seen, not judged, you went to Brenda's place. My parents didn't know. My brother didn't know. I'd heard of Gregory's firm from headlines, but I never clicked. I didn't need to. I thought I was done with them. I was wrong. By 2025, we were ready to launch our exclusive model, a car Joyce and I had poured our souls into. We'd partnered with a manufacturer to build a limited run, with features and a look you couldn't get anywhere else. Connie had built a buzz campaign that had car blogs frothing. Freddie had a wait list of VIP clients begging to be invited. Launch night was electric. The showroom glowed. Jazz played softly. Waiters floated with champagne flutes. The car sat under a silk cover in the center, like a secret. I wore a black jumpsuit, comfortable and sharp, hair pulled back, a simple necklace Megan had given me when we signed the lease. Joyce fussed over the lighting. Freddie worked the room, shaking hands. Connie hovered by the media table, checking that every outlet had what they needed. That's when I saw them. They walked in like they owned the building. My mother, Carol, in a designer dress I'd never seen before. My father, Walter, in a tailored suit. My brother Gregory, in a watch that cost more than my first car. His wife, Vicky, clinging to his arm like an accessory. For a split second, I thought I was imagining it. They can't be here, I thought. They don't even know this place exists. Then I saw the way they spoke to the receptionist, terse, entitled, dropping the Coleman name like a magic key. Of course. They weren't here for me. They were here for a car. My stomach clenched, but my face stayed neutral as I drifted closer, staying just outside their line of sight. I heard Gregory before I saw his face. "We're here for the new model," he said. "I was told there's a VIP list?" The receptionist checked the iPad. "Of course, Mr. Coleman," she said. "You're on the list. Welcome." He smirked and turned to his parents. "See? I told you. Places like this always take care of people who matter." Vicky giggled. "You deserve this, babe," she cooed. "After everything you've achieved." My jaw tightened. Everything he's achieved. Right. Joyce appeared at my side, murmuring, "You okay?" I nodded, eyes glued to my family. Then Gregory's gaze swept the room and landed on me. For a moment, he just stared like his brain needed a second to process. Then he grinned. Well, he said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "If it isn't little Brenda." My parents turned. Vicky followed. Mother's eyes ran over my outfit, my minimal jewelry, and I watched her visibly slot me into staff in her head. "Brenda," she said coolly. "You're working here?" My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "I'm here," I said. Which was technically true. Gregory snorted. "Here to clean the floors?" he asked. "All you can do in a place like this is swallow your envy, Bren." Vicky laughed, sharp and ugly. "Honestly, you look a little out of place around all this luxury," she said, waving at the cars. My mother sighed. "This isn't really your world, darling," she said. "But it's nice you get to see what real success looks like up close." Dad just gave me a curt nod, like I was the valet. My blood boiled, but my face stayed calm. This is my building, I thought. My team. My design under that cover. And you're standing here acting like I should be grateful to witness your shopping trip. Joyce bristled beside me. "They have no idea, do they?" she whispered. "Nope," I said. "And we are not going to be the ones to explain it." Joyce's eyes sparkled. "Oh, this is going to be fun," she murmured. My family turned back to the cars, talking loudly about Gregory's latest deal. "Closed at 8 figures, he bragged. As usual." Vicky squeezed his arm. "You're incredible," she said. "Your parents must be so proud." Mom smiled at her. "He makes us proud every single day," she said. "He's going to take the Coleman name even higher." Dad glanced at me, almost annoyed I still existed in the room. "Have you found something stable yet, Brenda?" he asked. "We heard you're still in cars." It was the pause before "in cars" that got me. Like he was saying "in garbage collection." "Yeah," I said lightly. "You could say that." Gregory rolled his eyes. "Still chasing that grease monkey dream, huh? Well, at least you're consistent." Vicky nodded, lips pursed. "Not everyone can handle high finance," she said. "We all have our level." Time slowed. I could feel eyes on us, clients, employees, maybe even a journalist. Part of me wanted to explode, to scream, "This is my dealership. You're standing in the middle of my success story." But another part, the one that had learned from Vincent, from Megan, from every humiliation, whispered, "Wait. Let the truth land all by itself. It'll hit harder." So I smiled. "Well, I hope you have a great night," I said. "I've got to get back to work." I turned away just as I saw Ronald, my manager, weaving through the crowd toward us. Ronald was in his 50s, ex-military, with a posture so straight it could slice paper. He'd been running operations under me since we opened. Always respectful, always professional. He reached me, slightly out of breath. "Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Coleman," he said, clearly aware of my family's presence but focused on me. "Your VIP room is ready as always. The team is waiting on your final approval for the launch program and the press sequence." The words rang out. The noise of the room seemed to dip. "Miss Coleman." "As always." My mother's hand froze on her clutch. My father's mouth actually dropped open. Vicky's smile flickered like a dying candle. Gregory's brows knit together. "Ms. Coleman?" he repeated slowly. Ronald turned, confused. "Yes," he said. "Miss Brenda Coleman. Owner of the dealership." He said it casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. It wasn't, to them. Gregory's smirk vanished so fast it was like it had been ripped off. "Owner?" he repeated. What are you talking about? Ronald blinked. I assumed you knew, he said. This is Miss Coleman's dealership. She's our managing partner. We've been preparing this launch under her direction for months. My mother made a small sound, like a hiccup. Brenda owns this place? She whispered. My father's face went pale. That's impossible, he said, more to himself than anyone. She dropped out. She. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Vicky's eyes darted between us, desperately trying to recalculate her social math. You're joking, right? Gregory snapped at Ronald. This is some kind of PR thing? She just works here. I met his gaze, feeling strangely calm. No joke, I said softly. Welcome to my dealership, Gregory. The air between us crackled. All the old insults, all the laughter, all the nights I cried into my pillow felt like they were standing there too, watching. Behind me, I sensed movement. Joyce stepped forward, chin high. Freddie appeared at my other shoulder, arms crossed. Connie lingered just behind, eyes bright. My team. My chosen family. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Mother rallied. She smoothed her dress, lifted her chin, and forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, she said tightly. This is quite a surprise. Father cleared his throat. We had no idea you were doing all this, he said. You should have told us. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. Told you? I repeated. Like when I told you I wanted to work in cars and you said it was beneath the Coleman? Gregory bristled. Oh, come on, Brenda, he said. You can't still be hung up on that. We were kids. No, I said. You were a kid. I was the one being told I'd never be enough unless I copied you. Vicky stepped in, her voice sugary. We just wanted you to have a stable life, Brenda, she said. You can't blame them for wanting what was best for you. Joyce snorted under her breath. My eyes flicked to her, then back to my family. You didn't want what was best for me, I said. You wanted what was easiest for your image. Mother flinched. That's not fair, she said. We supported you in everything. No, you supported Gregory in everything, I cut in. You supported me when I played along. Father's jaw tightened. This attitude is exactly why we worried, he said. You're being ungrateful. We gave you everything. You gave me an ultimatum, I said quietly. Finance or nothing. I chose nothing and built this nothing into something you decided was impossible for me. Freddie cleared his throat. If I can just say something, he said, addressing my family. Brenda didn't just walk into this. She outworked everyone. She's in here before the doors open and after they close. She treats every client like a human being. That's why they come back. Connie nodded. This launch? It's her baby, she said. She worked with Joyce on the design, negotiated with the manufacturer, handled the media. We're just the crew. She's the captain. Joyce lifted her chin. And she's got the best eye for what people really want in a car that I've ever seen, she said. I've worked for global brands. They could learn from her. My parents took all that in like they were swallowing glass. Gregory scoffed. You're all just employees, he said. Of course you're going to hype her up. I looked at him. The Crown Prince, I thought. Still convinced the world revolves around him. Out loud, I said. Gregory, this isn't some school play where mom and dad can clap you into a trophy. This is real life. I earned this. Vincent believed in me. My team believes in me. Clients believe in me. Whether you do or not is irrelevant. His nostrils flared. You think you're better than me now? He snapped. I shook my head. I don't need to be better than you, I said. I just need to be me. And I finally am. Mother stepped closer, lowering her voice like she could pull this back into something private. Brenda, darling, we're proud of you, she said. Truly. We just didn't know. If you'd invited us sooner. I laughed again. There it is, I said. If I'd made you look good sooner, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Father's temper snapped. Enough, he barked. We are not going to be spoken to like villains in your little revenge fantasy. My blood ran cold. You want to talk about villains? I asked. Let's talk about what you did when I told you the path I wanted. You cut me off. You laughed. You told everyone I'd come crawling back. You let Gregory mock me for years. You chose the crown prince and bet against me. Gregory rolled his eyes. You did come crawling back, he said. Look at you now, throwing a tantrum at your own party. This success clearly went to your head. Joyce stepped in, eyes blazing. She's not throwing a tantrum, she said. She's setting boundaries you should have respected a decade ago. Freddie added, they are completely enabling him, you know that, right? You made him this way. For a second, I was grateful they'd said it so I didn't have to. I turned back to my family. You don't get to rewrite the past tonight, I said. You don't get to pretend you always believed in me. You tried to crush this version of me. The only reason you're here is because you thought I worked the floor and you wanted a discount. Vicky's cheeks burned. That's not true, she said weakly. Isn't it? I asked. There was a long, heavy silence. Standing there, in front of my parents and my brother, with my entire team and half the room watching, I had a choice. I could smooth it over, make a joke, pretend it didn't sting. Let them slide back into my life as if nothing had happened. Or I could finally speak the truth and risk burning the bridge completely. If you were me in that moment, what would you have done? Would you forgive quietly? Or would you draw the line? Tell me in the comments, because I know a lot of you have lived your own version of this scene. The launch event couldn't wait for my family drama to resolve itself. Ronald cleared his throat. Miss Coleman, the press is ready, he said softly. Shall we begin? I nodded. I turned to my family one last time. You're welcome to stay and enjoy the show, I said. As guests. Not as parents giving themselves credit. I built this with these people. I gestured to Joyce, Freddie, Connie. Not with you. Mother's eyes shimmered with tears she refused to let fall. We'll stay, she murmured. We want to see what you've accomplished. I searched her face, trying to decide if she meant it. I decided not to care. We moved to the center of the showroom. Lights dimmed. Music shifted. The crowd gathered around the covered car. Connie signaled the videographers and influencers. Joyce checked the spotlight one more time. Freddie lined up the VIPs. I stepped up to the small platform, microphone in hand. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. Good evening, everyone, I began. I'm Brenda Coleman, owner of this dealership and co-designer of the model you're about to see. A murmur went through the crowd. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my parents stiffen at the sound of my last name under these lights, attached to something I'd built without them. I talked about our philosophy, cars as stories, clients as partners, innovation rooted in listening. I thanked my team by name. Joyce, for bringing every line on the page to life. Freddie, for proving you can sell with integrity and still win. Connie, for telling our story better than I ever could. I did not thank my family. Then, with a nod to Joyce, we pulled the cover. The car gleamed under the lights, every curve exactly where it was meant to be. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. I caught a glimpse of my mother's face, half awe, half something like grief. My brother's jaw was clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. Somewhere inside, the 10-year-old me, holding a crumpled sketch while my family laughed, stood up a little straighter. If the story ended there, it would have been satisfying. But karma wasn't done. Remember how I said our marketing leaned into storytelling? Connie had been quietly filming and photographing the entire night, yes, including the moment Ronald called me Miss Coleman in front of my family. We hadn't planned to use that, obviously. We weren't setting out to humiliate them. But other people had cameras too. Within 24 hours, a clip hit X, yeah, Twitter, whatever you call it, from a random guest. When the disappointment of the family turns out to own a dealership. The video showed Gregory sneering, here to clean the floors? Then cut to Ronald, Miss Coleman, your VIP room is ready. Then my parents' faces as the penny dropped. It blew up. Comments poured in. This is straight out of a movie. Imagine clowning your sister in her building. Shout out to Miss Coleman for the quietest, coldest revenge. At the same time, another wave of coverage hit. I'd won a major industry award, Outstanding Dealership Owner, for our sales numbers, innovation, and community work. Business journals ran features on me. Headlines like, Dropped out Penn student builds Philly's hottest luxury dealership. How Brenda Coleman turned grease monkey nonsense into an empire. Guess who did not love that? The Crown Prince. He had been building his own little tower in finance, a boutique firm that wrote a few lucky markets and a lot of ego. For years, my parents bragged about him at every social event. Gregory's deals. Gregory's bonus. Gregory, the future of the Coleman name. But under the gloss, his company was shaky. High-risk investments. Over-leveraged positions. Ignoring audit flags because he believed his own hype. I hadn't paid attention. I was busy. Karma, however, had time. One of the investors Gregory had been courting was Martin Wells, a respected veteran in the investment world. Martin happened to be at the same awards event where I was honored. He watched my acceptance speech about resilience and ignoring the people who tell you your dream is beneath you. He shook my hand afterward and said, "Impressive work, Ms. Coleman. You built something real." I thanked him, not thinking much of it. Later, I heard what happened when Gregory approached him the next week, expecting a big check. Martin had seen the viral clip. He'd read the articles. He'd also done his due diligence on Gregory's firm. When Gregory launched into his pitch, slick, confident, full of buzzwords, Martin cut him off. "I don't work with people who tear others down to feel taller," he said. "And your numbers are a mess. Consider this my answer." Gregory, for the first time in his life, had no comeback. Investors started looking closer. Some pulled out. The house of cards he'd been balancing with duct tape and arrogance began to fold. Local business media, always hungry for drama, sniffed blood. A journal ran a piece. "Coleman heirs firm under fire, mismanagement and mounting losses." Right next to another article about me. Sister's success highlights stark contrast in Coleman siblings' paths. Mom and Dad had spent years tying their social status to Gregory's star. Now that star was dimming. Fast. When people who've always been on top start slipping, they tend to thrash. My parents and Gregory did what a lot of people do when they're losing control: they tried to rewrite the story. Not by changing themselves. By attacking me. One night, I was in my office, going over numbers, when my phone started buzzing nonstop. Connie burst in. "Do not check X yet," she said, which of course made me check X immediately. My mother had posted a long thread. "It's painful when your own child uses success to humiliate and shame the family that raised her," she'd written. "We always supported Brenda, even when she made reckless choices." My father had quote-tweeted her. "We're proud of both our children," he wrote, "but one has decided to twist the truth for sympathy and attention." Gregory chimed in. "Funny how some people build their brand on humble beginnings when they enjoyed every privilege," he wrote. "Don't believe every sob story you hear." Vicky posted a filtered family photo with the caption, "At the end of the day, values matter more than vanity. Some of us remember who we are." My stomach dropped. I'd expected them to be embarrassed. I hadn't expected them to go public. Connie watched my face. "You okay?" she asked. I swallowed. "I shouldn't be shocked," I said. "They've been doing this behind closed doors for years. This is just louder." Freddie poked his head in. "Internet is already on your side," he said. "You don't have to say anything." I scrolled through the replies. They were right. My clients, former co-workers, even people from Thompson's Auto were lighting my family up. "You supported her by cutting her off and laughing at her dream? We've seen Brenda on the floor. She earned every bit of this. Imagine being mad your daughter turned out successful without your help." One comment from an old teacher hit me. "Brenda was always the kid who stayed late to finish her projects. This doesn't surprise me. Her family's reaction does." In real time, my parents' attempt to paint me as ungrateful turned into a mirror pointing at their own bitterness. Gregory's tweet about privilege was especially brutal in the replies. "Bro, you are the privilege," one user wrote. "She built a dealership. You built a mess." Within hours, they all went quiet. They started deleting some posts. It was too late. Screenshots lived forever. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed and oddly. "Tom." Megan called. "I saw," she said. "You okay?" "I'm sad," I admitted. But not surprised. This is who they are when they don't get to be the heroes. There was a pause. "Brenda," she said softly, "they're doing you a favor. They're showing you, in public, who they've always been in private. Believe them. And keep moving. Quick question for anyone still listening. Have you ever had someone, family, ex, boss, try to flip the script on you when you finally stood up for yourself? Did they call you ungrateful, dramatic, disloyal, just because you wouldn't play along anymore? If you're comfortable, share it in the comments. You never know who you might be helping feel less alone. Okay. Back to the story. In the weeks that followed, my life split cleanly into two worlds. In one world, my dealership thrived. We had wait lists. We got more press. Drive-by traffic turned into loyal customers. Our staff retention was high because people actually liked working here. In the other world, the Coleman name took hit after hit. Gregory's firm bled clients. Some of his risky bets came due. Lawsuits started circling. My parents found themselves quietly uninvited from gala committees. Social invitations they took for granted stopped coming. Maybe the worst part for them? People started asking about me more than about Gregory. "How's Brenda?" someone would ask. "We saw her in that article." Mom would grit her teeth and say, "She's busy." They could have chosen humility then. They could have called and said, "We were wrong. We're proud of you." It wouldn't have fixed everything, but it would have been a start. Instead, I got one voicemail from my father. "Brenda, this public drama has gone on long enough. Call us so we can present a united front." A united front. Not, "Let's heal." Not, "We're sorry." A PR plan. I deleted it. Gregory sent me a text. "Congrats on the award. I guess you got what you wanted." I stared at it for a long minute, then muted the conversation. I didn't respond. My peace was worth more than the satisfaction of one last clapback. One evening, after closing, I stood in the empty showroom, the lights dimmed, our exclusive car reflecting the city skyline. Joyce walked up beside me, sipping a coffee. "You did it, you know," she said. "Did what?" I asked. "Built something they can't take credit for," she said. "That's rare, Bran. And powerful." I swallowed past a lump in my throat. I thought I'd feel more vindicated, I admitted. Like I won. "And do you?" she asked. I thought about it. "My life is good," I said slowly. "I love my work. I love this team. I sleep at night. I don't jump when my phone rings. That feels like winning. But the part of me that used to beg them to see me? She's just quiet now. Not celebrating. Just gone." Joyce nodded. "Maybe that's the point," she said. "You're not fighting for their attention anymore. You've outgrown needing it. Success is nice. Money is helpful. Awards are shiny. But none of it healed the younger version of me who needed one adult to say, 'Your dream is valid.' So I decided to be that adult for someone else. I launched Drive Forward. It started small, Saturday workshops in a repurposed garage behind the dealership. We put up flyers at local schools and community centers. Love cars? Curious about the auto industry? Come learn, from people who actually work in it. We capped it at 15 teens per session. The first day, I was more nervous than I'd been at my launch event. What if nobody showed up? But they did. A 16-year-old girl whose guidance counselor told her mechanics are for boys. A shy kid who'd been rebuilding engines with his grandfather since he was 9. A non-binary teen who loved design but thought they were too weird for engineering programs. We spent the morning talking about the humans behind the industry. Sales. Service. Design. Marketing. Finance, yes, but tied to something tangible. Joyce taught them how to sketch a car that looked like it was moving. Freddie ran roleplays where they practiced greeting clients. Connie showed them how one honest story online could reach millions. I watched their faces light up the way mine had outside Thompson's Auto, and something in my chest unclenched. After one session, a kid named Marcus hung back. He was 17, quiet, always watching more than talking. "Can I ask you something?" he said, twisting his hands. "Always," I replied. He glanced at the ground. "How did you keep going when everyone said your dream was stupid?" he asked. "My dad says I'm wasting time with this stuff. He wants me in construction. Says cars are just toys." My throat tightened. "I didn't always keep going," I said honestly. "Sometimes I stopped. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I believed them. The trick wasn't never doubting. It was choosing, over and over, to keep moving anyway. He nodded slowly. What if I disappoint him? He asked. You probably will, I said. At first. But listen. You get one life. He got his. You get yours. You can love him and still not live it for him. His eyes lifted to mine. Do you regret choosing this? He asked. I thought of my old dining room table. My parents' faces. My brother's sneers. My empty apartment. My dealership. My team. The kids in this garage. I smiled. Not for a second, I said. He let out a breath like he'd been holding it for years. Then I guess. Neither will I, he said. That's when I knew I'd done more than escape my family's expectations. I'd broken the cycle. So here's where I am now. I'm Brenda Coleman. I own a luxury dealership in Philadelphia. I design cars. I run a program for kids who love the smell of gasoline and the sound of engines. I have a team that feels like family. My parents and my brother? They live in a different story now. One I don't belong to. I didn't destroy them. I just stopped carrying their version of me. Their pedestal for the crown prince crashed because it was built on ego and denial, not reality. My life stands because it's built on honesty, hard work, and a stubborn refusal to shrink. If you've listened this far, here's what I want you to take away. Your passion is not beneath you just because the people around you don't understand it. They might call it a phase. A hobby. Grease monkey nonsense. That doesn't make it less real. You are not ungrateful for choosing yourself over a script that is killing you. They'll say you're dramatic. Disloyal. A disappointment. What they usually mean is, you stopped making your life all about my comfort. Family is not defined by blood. It's defined by who believes in you when there's nothing in it for them. For me, that was Mr. Thompson, Vincent, Megan, Joyce, Freddie, Connie. And now, a bunch of teenagers in a garage. The strongest revenge is not screaming I told you so. It's building a life that feels like home, so when the people who doubted you finally see it, you don't need anything from them, not their apology, not their praise, not their attention. If you're standing at the edge of your own choice, between the life they want for you and the life you want for yourself, this is your sign. You are allowed to be at the beginning of your story. You are allowed to take the hard path if it's the true one. You are allowed to walk away from people who only cheer for you when you play a role they wrote. And if nobody has told you this yet, let me be the first. You are not crazy. You are not selfish. You are not ungrateful. You are brave. Thanks for listening to my story. If it hit home for you, let me know in the comments what dream they told you was beneath you, and whether you're still secretly holding onto it. And if you want more stories about setting boundaries, karmic justice, and choosing yourself even when it hurts? You already know what I'm going to say. Hit subscribe. We've got a lot more to talk about.